Okay, Mr. Chair, we are good to go. I think so.
Okay, I think so. You'll stop me if you're wrong. Good morning again. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning that applies to property, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on as the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone, and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All virtual participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelist when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Those participating through WebEx are not allowed to use share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the applicant or agent may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentations or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be invited to speak. Generally, we first call on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Before we hear our first item today, we will require a motion to confirm the minutes of the last meeting, which I believe was on April 25th.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of those minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Dalton, all in favor? That is approved. I shouldn't have voted on that because I wasn't at the meeting. Anyway, I can still vote? Okay, good. Before I continue, I just want to introduce our panel this morning. On my far left, Natalia Popovic. My near left, Stan Komorak. Near right, Laura Alderson. Far right, Bill Dalton. Far left end of this desk is our Deputy Secretary Treasurer, Barb Bartosik. And we have other support staff at the far right end of this desk and in the pit in front of the panel. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in this time slot? There being none, we'll move on. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral in this time slot?
Item 13, Mr. Chair, 899 Kipling Avenue.
13, okay, then let's just, we'll just jump the queue for that and deal with it right away. Item 13 is 899 Kipling Avenue. Purpose of the application is to legalize and to maintain a one-story rear addition and to construct a one-story addition along the south side of the building. We have a Metrolinx advisory, a transportation condition, and a recommendation from community planning to refuse the application, and a recent communique from Mr. Milne Pierce, I presume, to defer the application today. So, Mr. Milne Pierce, good morning. Pierce,
Thank you.
Could you explain your reasons for requesting deferral today?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Just to briefly state my name and address for the record, Addison Milne Price, planner at Design Plan Services located at 900 the Small, Suite 300, as I'm sure you're familiar with. The reason we're requesting a deferral on this application is to have more time to consult with planning staff and potentially compromise our proposal and revise in order to satisfy planning staff.
Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone in the room here to speak to 899 Kipling Avenue? No? And I don't believe we don't have any registered speakers virtually. Paul?
We do not have anyone else, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so then we can go into committee for a decision then, a motion to defer this application or not?
Yes, motion to defer at the request of the applicant.
Thank you. And a seconder? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you, Mr. Milne Pierce. Your application has been deferred.
Thank you.
Now, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I believe we were going to deal with number 16. Ask the agent if there's an interest in deferring given circumstances, which I'll be outlining.
Yes, and there's also a deferral request from Urban Forestry on that one.
Yes.
So perhaps they can address it.
Yeah, okay. So if we could, and I suspect there are a number of people in the room that came to speak to this item, which is, we're moving it up forward because we want to discuss with the agent, Ivan Clavio.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to let you know, the agent never pre-registered.
Yes, I did note that.
Is he here? Okay, never mind. The agent is here in person.
Okay. Mr. Clavio? Oh, hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'll just clarify the reason we're asking you to come up early. There's a number of people online and in the room today that want to speak to this application. We have 26 letters of opposition. We have 9 people that are registered to speak today. And we have a revised application, and the revisions are quite substantial. And as I said in my opening remarks, we think in fairness to people, they need time to consider revised applications, especially when the revisions are significant. Finally, the Urban Forestry Department has requested that this application be deferred. We suspect it may be in your interest to agree with the deferral, and we would like you to comment on that suggestion.
Well, first of all, we want to know, if I deferral, what are more of the reasons for the deferral? Because I'm trying to comply with all the bylaws. I did substantial changes to trying to comply with the bylaws. I think I eliminate 3 of them from the 6. 2 of them I can't do anything about it because it's existing building, right? So if you guys give me more guidance on that, I will defer it, and I will trying to accommodate.
Well, I think given the urban forestry request for deferral, firstly, we think it would be in your interest to take some time and discuss that with them.
Sure.
Negative comments on an application don't help expedite our consideration, so it would be we believe it would be in your interest to
Sure.
defer this for a while, sort that out. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, is to give the public an opportunity to consider your substantial revisions.
No problem.
Because we've run into this before where people weren't aware of them, we're putting them up on the screen, it's very cumbersome and unfair to them.
Yeah, no problem.
So if you'd be agreeable to requesting deferral, we can talk to the people that have come and people waiting to speak online and see if they're agreeable to a deferral as well.
All right.
So you are agree, Mr. Yeah.
Also, Mr. Chair, one of the members pointed out that variance number 5, it's not clear if it's still a variance because
Yes.
the driveway width is less than what the bylaw requirement is, but you've left it on your waiver.
Sorry.
Variance number 5, the maximum permitted width of a driveway entrance is 6 meters. You've indicated on your revised waiver that it's 4.88. So we're not sure why it's still on there.
I gotta see the drawings. Can I bring my my architect with me
Well,
so
I
that
think
we
if you're gonna get a deferral, then you're gonna have time to look at this. and
Yeah,
maybe
that's fine.
And maybe you just come back with only 3 variances instead of
Okay.
5.
So yeah, there's another good reason to defer this today. So you're agreeable to a deferral?
Yeah, that's fine. No
Okay,
problem.
now we're going to speak to the people, firstly, that are in the room this morning.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So we have 2 people in the room that I am aware of. The first one is Costa Lambakis. Costa Lambakis. That's me. If you'd like to come to the podium, please.
Forgive me, but I have a hearing impairment and I'm really bad. I got my hearing aids in my pocket, but they're not working.
We, sir, are kindred spirits.
I'm here to talk about number 1 Aquila Court.
Okay, now, hopefully you heard the conversation we just had with the agent. Because of the opposition, the numerous changes to his variances, urban forestry's request for a deferral, and the possibility that one of these variances should be removed, we recommended and the agent agreed to defer the application, in other words, not hear it today. So we're not here to listen to or consider your comments on the merits of this application. We're only here to give you an opportunity to answer a question. Are you agreeable to a deferral?
Am I agreeable to it?
Yes.
No.
You wish to proceed, and why do you wish to proceed?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Why do you wish to proceed today? You just told me that you don't want this deferred to a later date to give the agent an opportunity to make sure the public is aware of his actual variance
Okay,
requests.
so you wanna
Urban Forestry has asked for a deferral.
Okay,
There's a redundant or unnecessary variance. So why do you not think why is it not agreeable to you to defer this to a later date? Why do you want to hear this today? Is it because you want to tell us about the merits of the application?
I'm a little bit confused. Do you want me to tell you why we don't want?
Well, yes, if you don't want to defer, we need to hear why.
Okay,
And your answer cannot be because I want to discuss the merits of the application.
yeah.
We're not listening to the merits today.
Just want to let you know that there's 41 people.
We're well aware of that, sir.
Yeah, and you're well aware of it.
Yes,
We don't want a fourplex put up in our.
I'm aware of that. You're now commenting on the merits of the application. You're telling me you don't want a fourplex. We're not here to listen.
Yeah,
to
I wish I could hear you better. And I'm having that problem right now that I just can't comprehend what you're saying. So I don't know what else to tell you other than the fact that my neighbors oppose having a fourplex built in a single-family environment. And I'm here to speak on their behalf. Now, I have 41 names of people that oppose it, but the whole neighborhood doesn't
Okay.
want it.
Okay,
So-
sir, I'm going to have to interrupt, and I'll try and speak clearly and loudly. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay. We're not here to discuss whether or not you want a fourplex on this property today. We're here to consider the applicant's request to come back at a later date, at which time you and others can speak to the merit, what we call the merits or demerits of the
Okay.
application. Okay. So today is not about listening to concerns about the fourplex. Right now, we're only considering the fact that the applicant wants to defer and come back later, and we want to hear from you. Are you okay with not considering this application today, but
Okay.
coming back at a later date?
yes.
Okay, so thank you.
And
So
can we just get your name and address for the record?
I'm sorry.
Your name and address.
Oh, my name is Costa Lambakis, and I'm at 4 Braddock Road
Thank
in
you.
Etobicoke.
Thank you.
okay, so thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, there's one other individual in the room, Sai Lee. Okay, so the gentleman at 6 Braddock Road is declining to speak at this time.
Okay, so there's no one else in that room right now that wants to speak to this application?
We do have, however, some attendees that are virtual.
Yes. And before you call on one, I'm just going to make a comment that will hopefully save some time. And again, not to repeat myself, but we're not considering right now the merits of this application. The other comment I wish to make is this. As of very recently, fourplexes are allowed in all residential zones in the city of Toronto. So the issue with this application and any other fourplex, triplex, duplex is not whether or not you want one in your neighborhood. It's whether or not the variances from the zoning bylaw required to establish this use are minor or not in essence. So right now there's 5, and we think when he comes back there's going to be 4 variances. That's the issue that is before you to consider and us to consider in making our decision. It is not going to be refused on the basis solely of it being a fourplex. It's going to be refused or approved based on the variances requested to enable it. So I just wanted to put that out to those that are, I guess, lined up to speak. So, Paul, who would be first up here?
The first person is, it should be second on your list, Alyssa Fiorini.
Okay. Ms. Fiorini, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, and you've been listening in, hopefully?
I have, yes.
Okay, so the question is, do you agree with deferring this application to a later date? Yes or no?
I do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can we just get your name
Thank you.
and address?
Sure, so it's Alyssa Fiorini, 24 Aquila Court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Sai Lee, that's you, okay. So who's next up?
So, Mr. Chairman, we only have one other person from that list who's actually online. That would be Sonia DeMarco Agamang. And, okay, Sonia, I've just unmuted you.
Hi there.
Hello, Sonia. Hopefully you've been listening in.
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. So again, the question to you, ma'am, is are you agreeable to deferring this application today?
Yes, I
To a
am.
later date?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very
Yes,
much.
I-
And what's your address?
4 Aquila Court.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
so I think we've heard from everybody.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So let's go into committee for a decision on whether or not to defer item number 16, 1 Aquila Court.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Kamara?
I'd like to move a motion to defer the application so that the applicant has time to process with urban forestry and to come back with a revised application.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. And a seconder?
I'll second that.
Ms. Alderson, thank you very much. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Okay, so now I think we can go back to the rest of the agenda, starting with item 1, which is,
Sorry, Mr. Chair, did you want to deal with item 8? There was the request from the agent.
oh, yes. Item 8, 580 the Queensway. The agent is David Eagleman. Let's just pull this up. The purpose of this application is to construct a new fourplex dwelling. We have a revised application. With 10 variances. We have comments from Urban Forestry imposing condition 2. We have a recommendation to refuse from Community Planning, or in the alternative 4 conditions. We have an okay from TRCA. We have an opposition petition and a letter. We have a support petition. And we recently received a set of drawings related to the application. So, Mr. Eagleman, we're bringing you forward because we understand you have an important, unchangeable commitment later today. So we'll proceed with this one now. If you could just, as you always do, give us a wonderful presentation.
Yes. Good morning, Sir Chair, fellow committee members, staff. Thank you for having me this morning, and thank you for the accommodation. I appreciate it. David Eagleman, 900 the East Mall, Suite 300. And just before I provide my brief presentation, I will note that there were some minor corrections to the public notice. Staff did advise that those corrections were made. It was just some minor wording errors on variances number 9 and 10, where it refers to platforms with a floor no higher than the first floor, whereas they should actually be referring to platforms with a floor higher than the first floor. So my understanding is that those are not public notice issues. So before getting into the variances, I will note that I did provide a detailed justification letter, which I would hope that the committee has been able to review. I have, and because of that, I'll focus my presentation on the main issues at hand. I have reviewed the report from the TRCA in which they confirm that they have no concerns or objections subject to a TRCA permit being obtained, which we are agreeable to. I have also reviewed the report from Urban Forestry in which they recommend standard forestry condition number 2. We're agreeable to that as well. And as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, we have consulted with surrounding neighbors regarding this proposal and have obtained 10 signatures in support. I have also reviewed some of the objection letters, or all of the objection letters from some of the surrounding neighbors, as well as planning staff's report, in which they recommend that the application be refused. And before addressing the comments from planning staff, as well as the concerned neighbors, I will note that we are agreeable to all the conditions recommended by planning staff if the committee decides to approve this application. So regarding the concerns from planning staff, as well as some of the surrounding neighbors, the concerns mostly relate to the proposed height, wall height, and the lot coverage. The proposal that is in front of you today is for a 4-story fourplex with larger family-sized units. And I'll note as well that the site is a more complicated site. There's TRCA involved, RNFP, there's unique grading conditions, and it's a currently vacant site right now. And I would like to ask staff to please pull up the supplementary drawings I have submitted for this. And while that's being pulled up, I'll just move on. So those supplementary drawings that we provided, they were provided late, so the committee may not have them within their package. You can see on those drawings that the ceiling heights are of a modest 10 feet for each unit, for each floor, and it's actually 9 feet of usable ceiling height because of the joists and so forth. And with bulkheads, the ceiling heights would actually be 8 feet on each unit and each floor. As I mentioned, the subject property is currently vacant land, and I did provide photos of the subject property within my cover letter, so you can see that it's a currently vacant site. And the proposal will make more efficient use of currently underutilized lands on a major street, on a designated avenue within the city of Toronto. The Queensway is both a designated avenue in the city's official plan as well as a major street, which are both areas for intensification and where intensification is contemplated within the city. Regarding the overall height and the wall height, while the requested variances do deviate from a numerical perspective, the proposal is in keeping with the existing and planned context along the Queensway. Specifically, just west of the subject property, on the west side of Woodford Park Road, properties on both sides of the Queensway are permitted for a height of 6 stories as of right. So all along the Queensway, just essentially 50 meters west of the subject property, the zoning bylaw already permits 6 stories along the Queensway. A 6-unit townhouse development with an overall height of 15.24 meters was recently approved by this committee at 598 the Queensway, which is just across the road on the other side of Woodford Park Road. Moreover, as you may be aware, the city is currently undertaking work to permit 6 stories and further intensification along major streets. That is at council today as we speak, at the Planning and Housing Committee, and that's being considered today. So I know I'm running out of time. So based on the provided justification, I'm of the opinion that this proposal fits in with both the existing and planned context for the neighborhood, represents good planning, meets the 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Panel. Any questions for Mr. Eagleman? Mr. Dalton?
Yep. So in your cover letter, you make reference to May 10th, 2023 city comments, but I didn't see them on file, and I'm just interested, what were those comments and why then are they recommending that this go through a rezoning versus C of A?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the planning staff did provide a report. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be within the committee's package. They're essentially recommending that a zoning bylaw amendment be applicable to this proposal because of effectively the numerical deviations from the standards, and because this is an RD zone. However, we fundamentally disagree with that opinion. We're of the opinion that this fits in with the context. It makes sense from a planning perspective. I'll note that the height includes a mechanical penthouse that adds 3.2 meters to the height. So there's a number of nuances with this proposal that make it an appropriate application, and unfortunately, planning staff were not able to see those nuances and understand where we were coming from and are sticking to their opinion.
So the crux of their concern was the height.
The crux of their concern was the height, correct?
And then we got additional drawings last night, and then you're noting on those that the top of the mechanical parapet, which is adding the 3.2 meters, is taking up 16% of the roof area, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. And additionally, because the grade slopes, it essentially slopes down to Mimico Creek. So there's a high point on the west side and it slopes down on the east side. So on the west side, if you exclude that mechanical penthouse, the height is actually 12.23 meters.
Any other questions, panel? Oh, no, we have a speaker.
No, that's speaker.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the registered speakers, and I see one, Louise Burse, who apparently is in person. Ms. Burse, can you approach the podium? Please give us your name and address for the record.
Louise Burse, 7. Louise Burse, 7 Woodford Park Road.
Okay, go ahead and tell us what you think.
Well, I did. Oh, that's my husband who sent in that letter there. I sent in another one as well, too, explaining our concerns. My backyard butts right into the end of the empty lot. We are not going to, this is a humongous build, larger than what is required. We are going to lose all sunlight. We are going to lose our privacy, especially at, in my backyard, number 9's backyard, 590, which is next door, the little house that's next door to the empty lot, and 592. We're going to lose all our privacy because you're like 5 levels high with the garage and then 4 levels plus the top balcony or rooftop or whatever. It's inappropriate for our neighborhood. I'm not understanding how they got signatures of 10 people that approved this in our neighborhood. I did get signatures from some. Some of the people. Oh, that was my objection there, yeah. So pretty well what I got to say is written what I wrote there. It's just, it's inappropriate. It's not, I know there's going to be the 6-plex that's going to be across the street from us, going to be built. That's fine, you can squeeze it in there, but that little tiny lot, it's not. We just find it's not appropriate.
Okay.
And that's pretty well it from, I didn't bring my notes up with me, but from what I had written on there.
Okay, is that it?
I guess that's pretty well
Okay.
it.
If
Yeah.
you could just stand there for just a moment. Panel, any questions for Ms. Burst? Okay, thank you very much. We'll invite Mr. Eagleman up to rebut your comments.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Through you, Mr. Chair, I do appreciate the comments from the neighbor. While I understand the comments, again, I'll note this lot is not dissimilar at all to the lot at 598 to Queensway, again, which is just west of here, basically 2 properties over on the other side of Woodford Park. Very similar proposal that was approved, and it was a different context in terms of the zoning because, again, everything along the Queensway, just west of Woodford Park Road on both sides of the Queensway are already permitted today for 6 stories. Again, the Planning and Housing Committee today is considering that 6 stories along all major streets, and we're providing a 10.57 meter rear yard setback in this case. So that exceeds the minimum rear yard setback requirement of the bylaw. So we're providing a larger setback to the neighbor at 7 Woodford Park, which is to the north or rear of the subject property. Also, all the windows on the rear wall, which would face the neighbor at 7 Woodford Park, are just bedroom windows. So all the living space, all the amenity space, that's all provided on the east side and on the front wall to provide views and amenity space along the Queensway and into Mimico Creek. So I understand it is a larger building. However, it fundamentally is a 4-plex. It's only 4 units, and it's larger mostly because the intent here is for this to be a multi-generational home. And the units are large family-sized units. And that is essentially what is guiding the overall built form of the building. But fundamentally, it is only 4 stories in height, which is what the neighborhood's designation in the official plan contemplates. And it is a multiplex, which is, again, always already permitted within all the neighborhood's designations. So, and I'll lastly note, in regards to the comment about the rooftop is not usable as any amenity space. There's purely a mechanical penthouse up there to provide access so that maintenance can be performed. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions for Mr. Eagleman? None? Okay, then let's go into committee for a motion with reasons.
Can we do some, just want to make some comments if I can, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I guess just 2 comments I want to make. I mean, one is my issues with this application are the lot coverage numbers and the height. We are all aware that the main avenues or main streets proposal for EHON is before committee today, but I would argue that given it's not even seen council yet, let alone potential appeals to whatever council may pass, I would claim that any applicant coming forward with a proposal that is relying on that is premature at this point. And those are my comments.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I've got some comments. I actually think that this is a very desirable site to build on, and I'm looking at Street View right now, and I see three stories, quite a large complex directly across the street from this. And this is a pretty major thoroughfare here. It's an avenue, and it's a designated avenue, and as such should be ripe for intensification. So I think this is a very well done project, and I that's what I want to say. I'm not prepared to make a motion yet, but
I just want to point out, if I may, that under the current avenues designation, this is not within that area.
The Queensway is not considered an avenue.
Not
in the
this
city?
section of the Queensway.
Oh, I thought the entire Queensway was actually designated as an avenue.
I'd have to pull up the zoning bylaw, but I don't believe it is.
Does that change your opinion at all, or no?
Because then,
I don't know if it would
because
actually change my
if it
opinion.
were, then the 4 stories would be the height would be as of right,
As of right, yeah.
which it's not.
It's our understanding it wouldn't apply in an RD zone or a neighborhood zone, right? So there's a distinction for an avenue. Usually it's mixed use, retail, that type of use would apply for avenues.
I think because it's on a main street, however, and because it's on the periphery of the neighborhood, it overlooks the Credit River.
It's not a
Or the credit-
periphery though,
Is it
because
Mim- is it
that
Mimico?
whole
It's
area
Mimico Creek?
is residential. Across the street, it starts to change.
Yes, but if you look at it, it borders on Mimico Creek. So
Yeah.
it's really at the periphery of that neighborhood. It's not smack dab in the middle of the neighborhood is my point.
No, if in all directions, it's all residential, low density.
Well, there's a 3-story complex.
That's across the street, and that's abutting Park Lawn, right? And that's no longer an RD zone.
I think the applicant said that they were okay with community planning's conditions.
The question was, it's not an avenue. That's all we're trying to
Okay.
clarify.
If it's not a designated avenue.
Currently, I mean, it may be
Might
under
be
the.
tomorrow.
It may be, well, it
Well,
still
not
won't be
tomorrow.
tomorrow,
Today.
but
Council and everything.
Anyway, those are my comments.
Okay, no other comments? Mr. Dalton, Ms. Popovic? Okay. So, I call on a motion, presumably from Laura or Stan.
I'm going to support planning's position and move a motion to refuse based on the rationale that I outlined earlier.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Komorek. Is there a seconder for Mr. Komorek's motion? All in favor? That motion carries. The,
Opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eagleman. Okay, now we can go back to the start of the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, if we're going to proceed with item number 1, just to let you know, there is an additional person that is not on the list that's online, along with a 4th person that's in person in the chambers today. So we have a total of 3 neighborhood speakers plus the agent, making it a total of 4.
Okay. Thank you. So, item 1, 118 Fifth Avenue. Purpose is to legalize and to maintain the garden suite that is currently under construction. There are 7 variances. Variance number 7 has been revised. We have urban forestry condition 2. We have a Metrolinx advisory. We have a planning condition. We have a Toronto Parking Authority concern. We have 3 letters of opposition. And as Paul just indicated, we have 3 persons that are registered to speak. So, call on Edward Bigage, the agent. Mr.
Morning.
Bigage?
Yep, my name is Edward Begay, 14 Beely Side Park Drive. I'm in the airport right now, so I have limited no hearing, but I will follow. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, if you can raise a little bit the voice, the lady I can hear better. Sorry for asking me that. Hello?
Hello? Could you make a presentation on your application?
Yeah, I can do that. So the proposed is a garden suite that it's created on the top of an existing structure garage that has been approved by appeal on February 2020. And we're looking for 7 variances, and I think 2 of them, following with planning staff concerns and advised by them, we made some changes. So the soft landscape will be 33.1%, before was 30.8. The pathway and driveway will be permeable paved. And item 3, the permitted south side setback is now 0.77, before was 1.5. We removed the window on the south side. So we believe with the changes with that, we work with the staff and as their advice, we think that our application with pass the test.
Okay, is that your presentation?
Yep.
Okay. Panel, any questions for Mr. Bigosh?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
I believe you said that you're looking for variances in support of the garden suite that was approved as per the February 2020 LPAT decision. Hello?
Could you respond, Mr. Bigosh?
That's right.
Mr. Bigosh, can you respond to the question, please?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Could you respond to the
Hello?
question that's just been asked of you about the 2020 decision?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I just, I'm out of, and so if you can repeat it, please.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think the applicant can actually hear the question.
Oh. Would it
Can
help?
hear the question, yes.
Would it help for the question to be asked again? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm gonna give Mr. Dalton an opportunity to repeat his question.
So can you hear me now? Hello?
Yep.
Hello? Can you
Hello?
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said in your presentation that you're here seeking variances in support of the garden suite that was approved by the LPAT in February 2020, correct?
Did you hear the question, Mr. Bigosh?
That's your Timothy O'Hara. Timothy O'Hara. Please return to TSA checkpoint to retrieve your prescription medication. Attention. Oh, Timothy O'Hara. Please return to checkpoint.
I just muted the applicant, sir. I think he's probably on the plane.
Hello?
Mr. Bigosh, did you hear the question?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I have a question. So the tribunal was, the appeal was at revised date at February 6, 2020. And they approved for the garage.
For the garage, correct, not the garden suite, because the approval specifically said prohibiting plumbing and living accommodation in the garage. Correct?
Yes, yes. So no, for the garage, they said no plumbing, not living accommodation, and it has to be with the plans.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Revised on February 6th.
Any other questions for Mr. Begaj before we go to the other interested parties that wish to speak? No? Okay. So Paul, you indicated that there's someone in the room that's not on my list that wishes to speak to this application?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. I believe there's a John Wilcox in the room.
Hi, I'm John Wilcox. I am John Wilcox from 121 6th Street, and I live one property removed on 5th Street, on 6th Street, so one behind 6th. It's a bit deceiving what's going on. I don't really understand because there was a garage, they tore it down, they built an apartment about 4 years ago, and then the city came and stopped them building. So now the building is waving in the wind. It's never been finished. There's windows right up at the lot line against my next door neighbors. And I was wondering if this does get approved and it has windows, does that mean that no one can build against their lot line behind it, another garden suite? This is one question. The other question is there any consideration for the design from the rear I've never seen, whether it has windows, what it looks like, what I have to look at all the time now that I've looked at it for 4 years with building paper all over it, illegally built. And on the city plan, it shows that there's an alleyway. It shows that this is abutting an alleyway that goes along the shared driveway and behind the apartment building. I was wondering how that affects it, because it's not used as a city alleyway right now. It's used for the properties to park on the alley, that it approaches the church just to the north. And I think, yeah, and how would this affect any of the other neighbors being able to build a subsequent garden suite in their backyard of the same way? I'm not against the idea of intensifying and having garden suites. I just wonder what is the process. I know it's a pretty new process for the city to approve these, and really haven't been given too much information as an abutting neighbor. I didn't see the designs that you showed previously, just the lot line. I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. If you can take your seat, we'll go through all the speakers and then we'll ask Mr. Begaj to respond, okay? Mr. Begaj, were you able to listen to Mr. Wilcox and start preparing your responses to his questions and comments?
Responded.
You'll be, sorry, sir, you'll be doing a single rebuttal to all the comments and questions that are asked of you. We've only heard from one person, Mr. Wilcox, so far. There are more. But I'm just asking if you're listening closely and preparing your remarks and responses to the people that are speaking. Did you hear Mr. Wilcox?
We moved
I'm not asking you to respond to Mr. Wilcox right now, sir. I'm just asking you if you did hear him to help you facilitate your response later after we've heard from all the speakers. Did you hear Mr. Wilcox?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll call on our next speaker. I guess it's a virtual person.
Mr. Chairman, so the person that you do have on your list, Joan Swanson, I'm going to unmute her now. Yep, okay.
I'm here.
Hello, Ms. Swanson. Could you just give us your name and address for the record?
Joan Swanson, S-W-A-N-S-O-N, 114 on 5th Street.
Okay, so what would you like to say about this matter?
Well, first of all, Mr. Vagash said that they had removed the window on the south side. There never was a window on the south side. Secondly, my property is less than 50 feet away from the front door of this garden suite. It's almost like living in a fishbowl, as I said on my comments to you. This thing has been going on for 10 years, time and time again, through every one of the appeals and the hearings and all this other stuff. The same variances, or much the same variances, have been brought up, and they've all been turned down. When Mr. Vigosh said that it was approved in 2020, no, it was not. What was approved was changes that were to be made in order to get approval, not the actual approval. To date, the changes have not been made. Now, as I say, like, there's no privacy when you've got wall-to-wall building and two great big windows, which I believe they're taking down and putting in one window. But even still, the window overlooks my property. So there's a sense of no privacy whatsoever. And I'm afraid if this garden suite gets approved, it's going to establish a precedent for a lot of the smaller properties in the area. As I say, my property is 25 feet wide. Am I going to be allowed to have a garden suite? I think not. But why is this owner, who now has 2 apartments in the main house, going to be allowed to put another apartment that he can rent out and gain from at the expense of residents who are denied the enjoyment of their property because you've got people looking down at you from the second floor of what is a garage. This was never, ever approved, and I still think that what should happen is that it is restored to a garage, and again, nothing, no plumbing, no electricity to be put back there and to be used for exactly what its purpose was. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Swanson. A panel, any questions of Ms. Swanson before we move on? And I was remiss in not offering this opportunity to you for Mr. Wilcox. Do we have any questions for him? Okay, then we'll move back to the agent, Mr. Bigaj.
Actually, sorry, Mr. Chairman, there is one other additional late registrant. They are Comiso Casale from 116 5th Street.
Okay.
Mr. Casale, I have unmuted you. Sorry, Cosimo Casale, my apologies.
Hello, are you there, sir?
They didn't register ahead of time. This was a very, very last minute addition. But Mr. Casale, are you there? We cannot hear you.
I think we have no alternative but to proceed. Let's give him one more shot, I guess.
Mr. Casale, don't mute and unmute yourself. I am going to unmute you myself, which I've done so right now. Can you hear us? There's something wrong with Mr. Casale's microphone, perhaps.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but I think we have to proceed. Mr. Bigaj?
Let me just unmute Mr. Bigaj right now. Okay, Mr. Bigaj, you are unmuted.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, you have up to 5 minutes if you require it to rebut the questions and comments that were asked by Mr. Wilcox and Ms. Swanson. So if you can proceed.
And Mr. Chair and members, just so you know, the person that we weren't able to get a hold of, there is a letter in opposition from them. It's opposition number 1 from 116 5th Street.
Oh, okay.
So you do have that in your.
So we do have that input. Okay, thank you. Mr. Bagaj?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yes, go ahead.
According to the neighbors' claims that there was no OMB tribunal appeal that was authorized, there was the OMB case number PL 151219 on, I have it here in the city, I think they have a copy, that approved and authorized to move forward with the garage, building the garage, with the plans revised on February 6, 2020. And also condition to proposed garage shall not be used for living accommodations, and plumbing is not to be connected to the proposed garage. So we had, not as the owners are claiming, we had the tribunal decision to allow the garage. So there's no question about that. We gave the city, and the city, I think you have the record of that. As for the window on the south side, that is not existing, because I want to tell the neighbors that we are removing the second floor as it built because it's not structurally sound and safe. So the second story is being removed totally. It's only the garage is remain, and we're proposing to build a garden suite on the top of the existing garage. And we proposed before on the south side a window, but as I said, so following planning staff concerns and being advised by them, we removed that. And also we made changes on the landscape. So from 30.8, we went to 33.1. And I saw in some of the letters that they sent the neighbors, they're saying that we are not allowed to go 4 feet high. The bylaw says that if you are more than 7.5 meters away from the main walls of the rear main walls of the house, you're allowed to go 6 feet. So I don't know what to say about that. And I hope I responded. I answered all the questions.
Thank you, sir. Panel, any questions for Mr. Begaj?
I do have a question, actually.
Got somebody else?
Somebody in the background. It's the airport. So are you okay with the condition that community planning has established that says you shall use permeable pavers?
Yes.
You're okay with that condition?
And we are removing the window.
I just want to comment. I always worry when neighbors come before us and, they complain about the state of neglect that a property is in, or, they're not happy. But I'm just wondering, if we refuse these applications, what's to say that it's going to improve the situation any? It might just sit there for another 10 years and nothing will be done. And will the neighbors be happy with that? Not necessarily. That's just my comment.
Okay. I think we're ready then to go into committee for a decision. If we can have a motion. Mr. Kumar.
I just want to make a comment
Yes, sir.
I've made previously about garden suites, and that this is a fairly new thing, and because of that, it's incumbent on us to make sure that we get it right. Given that this is a legalized as opposed to a new build, we're not supposed to be considering that it's already built, and if we should be looking at this as if we're a brand new application. And if this were a brand new application, I'm not sure I'd be happy with the variances that are before us. So that's my comment.
Anyone prepared to make a motion?
But I'm kind of torn on this one because it's also right next to an apartment building, so it's not a bad transition from that, so.
I'm prepared to make a motion if no one else is.
Go ahead, Ms. Alderson.
You know, garden suites are a relatively new thing for the city of Toronto, and we want to encourage them whenever possible. So I'm going to move for approval, subject to community planning's condition. And I don't think there's any urban forestry condition.
Yeah, there is. Number two?
Sorry, there is number two. Yeah, number two, and subject to urban forestry condition number 2.
Okay. Is there a seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion? No, that motion fails. I'll ask for another motion.
I could have gone either way on this one, but I'm going to move a motion to refuse based on my previous comments.
Okay. Is there a seconder for Mr. Kamorik's motion?
Mr. Chair, I echo my colleagues' concerns. This one is very difficult. On balance, however, I believe that we've heard the opposition concerns and slightly tips in favor of refusal, so I second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to refuse made and seconded. All in favor? That motion is carried 4-1. Motion to refuse. So moving on to item 2, 73 HALLOW Crescent. Purpose is to construct north and south side second-story additions. We have one variance. We have no neighborhood comments. We have no one registered to speak to this. Paul, I believe, if you could confirm that.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We just have the applicant who is today in person.
Okay. And Dylan Sachs is the applicant. Okay, Mr. Sachs, I think we see this as very straightforward. I don't believe we need a presentation unless anyone on the panel requires one. No. So if you would be okay to just answer any questions if we have any.
Absolutely.
And otherwise, we'll move to a decision. Yeah. So, any questions for Mr. Sachs? None. Let's go into committee then for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Popovic.
this is a relatively straightforward matter. I believe it addresses the 4-point test that the committee is required to consider. I move to approve on the basis of I don't see any conditions.
No. Okay.
No conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Popovic. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Mr. Dalton, thank you very much. All in favor? That is approved unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Sachs. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we can now move on to item 3, 1113 Royal York Road. Purpose is to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front porch, and a deck in the rear yard. We have 4 variances. We have a Metrolinx advisory, and we have an urban forestry request to refuse variances 1 and 3. Which have to do with coverage and required front yard setback. In the alternative, urban forestry has asked that we impose condition 2 regarding a privately owned tree. The agent is Ashley Carter. Ashley, are you online?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah,
Good morning.
we note here you didn't pre-register to speak today.
I did not. I'm pretty sure I did.
You know, that's important, so please next time
Apologies.
let us know in advance that you're going to speak. Anybody on the panel need a presentation on this application? No? Okay, we're not in need of a presentation unless you have any comments to make, but otherwise, would you be content to answer any questions that we may have?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll ask the first one. Could you comment on urban forestry? They've got problems with your coverage and front yard setback. They have offered an alternative, their condition 2. Could you just tell us how you feel about urban forestry's input into your matter here?
Well, so we are following the perimeter of the existing bungalow on the property and just going up 1 story following that perimeter. The neighbor to the north, immediately to us, is a corner property, but their house sits 2.8 meters closer to Roy York than we do, and their door fronts onto Roy York. So we feel that it is indeed a minor variance to allow for us to build at the existing front yard setback on the 2nd floor. Regarding the coverage point, we are just replacing that deck in the back with a larger one in the same location. We are not taking down any existing planting to do that. We're still staying the same distance away from the existing deck that was in disrepair at the property. So we feel that you know, these changes are minor in nature.
Okay, if we approve this application, are you satisfied with urban forestry's request for condition 2?
We have made an application to urban forestry already, so yes.
Oh, you already have, okay.
Yes.
Okay, panel, any questions for Mr. Carter? No? Okay, then I think we can go into committee for a decision. Mr. Dalton?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application. I believe it meets the 4 tests subject to the forestry condition.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton? Ms. Popovic, thank you. All in favor? That application is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Moving on to item 4. 250 Maple Leaf Drive. Purpose is to construct a new detached garage in the rear yard. 1 variance regarding the height. We have a support petition. We have a revised application that came in with the additional materials last night. And we also last night received an email from a neighbor. Does anyone on the panel require a presentation on this application? No? Okay. Yeah, Mr. Mazzatelli?
Yes?
Yeah, the committee doesn't require a full presentation from you. Would you be content to answer any questions that we may have?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's do that then. So, questions, Mr. Dalton, you have one?
Yeah, we received a letter last night from the owner of 251 Maple, and they were asking if we could impose a condition not to be used for habitable space, comma, only garage. Can you live with that?
Yes, so we do have support from the neighbors on the sides and the rear. It's obviously only a garage. I don't know if you need to add that comment, but if you insist, I do not object.
Okay, no, it's a bit of belt and suspenders, but given that a neighbor asked for it, I just was wondering if you're willing to do it, and if you are, then we'll discuss whether or not we'll put it there. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Any other questions, panel?
No, just a comment that the use has been changed from to build as to legalize. So this is already built.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's going to be onerous to impose that condition.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into committee then for a decision.
Mr. Chair, if there are no additional comments, on the basis of the undertaking or indication from the applicant that they are content with the language roughly not to be used for habitable space, but only as a garage, I believe that otherwise the matter meets the 4 tests, and I would move to approve. I don't see any other conditions on this.
No, there are none.
Is that a condition, or you're just aware?
I would include it as a condition based on the undertaking that the applicant has made to us.
Okay, so the garage shall not be used for habitable space.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam DST.
Is there a seconder for Ms. Popovic's motion? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? That application is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzatelli.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5, 96 Lonborough Avenue. Purpose is to construct a 1-story rear addition containing 2 additional residential units. A total of 4 residential units will be provided. There are 3 variances, no registered speakers, a Metrolinx advisory, and a community planning condition. Does anyone on the panel require a presentation on this? This is pretty straightforward. Ijona Kalafi, owner?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we've determined that we don't require a presentation from you. You got a very straightforward application with a small number of variances. Would you be happy or content with us to proceed with perhaps asking you some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do that then. Panel, any questions for Ms. Kalafi? No. Okay, let's go into committee then.
I'm good to go, Mr. Chair. I believe the application meets the 4 tests, and I'd be happy to move a motion to approve, subject to the planning condition tying it to the site plan as related to the rear yard setback.
Okay, and a seconder for Mr.
I'll second that
Moore.
motion.
Thank you, Ms. Alderson. All in favor? That application is approved. And Paul, I was right.
Thank
There
you.
was no one online to speak to that one. Yeah. Item number 6. Oh, this isn't 96 Longborough. 10 Mill Cove. Yep. Okay. Purpose is to construct a 2nd-story south side addition, a 2-story front addition, and a new covered front porch. There are 4 variances. We have 1 letter of opposition, and we have a request by Urban Forestry to impose their conditions 1 and 2. Now, panel, I know at least one of you may have some questions on this, but do we need a presentation? Okay, we don't need a presentation. Mr. Dome.
Yes.
Mr. Dome, you didn't pre-register to speak to us today, and I know you've been here before.
Oh, I believe I did. I did send an email earlier. I just assumed that I was registered.
Okay. We'll treat this as a typo.
Yeah, apologies.
Agents do have to specifically register. It's not automatic.
Okay. Did you hear that, Mr. Dome? You have to
Yes.
specifically request. So you'll do that next time.
Correct.
Okay, sir. The panel sees this as a pretty straightforward application and doesn't require presentation from you. There's probably a question or two, though. Would you be content just to move into questions from the panel?
Yes, that is okay.
Is that okay? All righty. Questions of
Yes.
Mr. Dome. Ms. Popovic.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Agent, my first question is, are you content with urban forestry's conditions 1 and 2 if this matter is approved?
That's right, yes.
Okay. My second question is, the letter of opposition from one of the neighbors makes reference to a fire on site. Can you please briefly explain what, if anything, what consequence flowed from that?
Yes, my understanding is that the owner had a permit for basement underpinning. They did proceed with work, which is not a recommended course. They did stop work within order to comply. There was a fire regarding, I believe, welding done in the basement. I think it was small in scope. I mean, obviously that's it's still a very serious thing, but no work is being done. In my capacity, I can argue for the merits of the application. We do feel that the variances before you today, and if you do need any more justifications for the requested variances, I can certainly offer those. And we do feel it is it is definitely within the character of the area. Is a sensitive addition, and the owner has actually spoken to the direct neighbors. They have no concerns. It's actually gone back to them, going back months, and made revisions prior to submitting the application in accordance with their comments. So I understand that the neighbor does have concerns regarding what has happened there, but going forward, we do feel that everything will be followed according to requirements, and that the application is reasonable.
Thank you.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. It was just the applicant.
So let's go to the committee then for a motion.
Yep, I'd like to make a motion for approval, as I believe this is very straightforward and subject to the forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Mr. Chair, your microphone is off.
That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Dome.
Thank you very much.
With urban forestry conditions 1 and 2. All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest after item number 7 that we take a break because item 8 is already being heard, and then item 9 has a number of speakers.
I was just thinking the same thing. Okay, then let's do item 7, and then we'll take a 15-minute break? That'd be good? Okay, good. All right. Item 7 is 35 Chilcot Avenue. There are 2 variances. Urban Forestry has requested their condition number 2. We have no registered speakers, correct, Paul?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Just the agent, Donnie Maria.
Okay. Panel, this appears to be pretty straightforward. Does anyone require a presentation? No? Okay. Donnie or Doni
Yes.
Maria?
Yes, sir.
And your address?
35 Chilcot Avenue.
Sorry, what was that again?
My name is Doni Maria, and the property address is 35
No,
Chilcot
not the
Avenue.
property, your business address.
6 Calls Court. Acton, Ambi Engineering.
Okay, thank you. So the committee has decided we do not really need a presentation from you. This is a very straightforward application. Would you be okay with answering any questions if we have any?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do that then. Panel, any questions for Ms. Maria? No? Then let's go into committee for a motion. Ms. Alderson.
I'm happy to make that motion for approval. It meets the 4 tests and is desirable, and move for approval with no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sorry.
Forestry 2.
Oh, urban forestry number 2, yes.
Is there a seconder for Ms. Alderson? Ms. Popovic, thank you. All in favor? That application is approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Maria.
Thank you so much.
With conditions.
Yeah.
So, we will now take a break until 11:20. Okay, thank you.
Turn off your cameras.
Okay, so now I'm trying to decide between AirPods Pro 2, second generation, AirPods Pro 1, because they seem to be the same in terms of noise canceling. Right? 40 bucks. Yeah, 40 bucks. And then the Beats for 100. Yeah.
I don't know. I like the Beats. I like the AirPods.
And they also have Sennheiser earbuds.
Why don't you look at reviews on YouTube?
That's what I was going to do.
They'll tell you. The Sennheiser usually makes good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think you can
They're
go
quality.
wrong. Like the Beats I had, I liked. But if you don't get it from Costco, you might be in trouble.
That's why I'm doing all this. You know what I mean? I research everything to death, and then I get it at Costco because I know that if even all my research is wrong, I can still take it back. They don't have it at Costco. I have to use my points. I've got like extension.
Why don't you buy a bunch of them at Costco, use them, return them, and then pick which one you
They don't
like?
have all that stock.
They don't have it?
I think so. You going to Costco? Can I come with you? Just to hang out? Okay. Oh, you went after the I thought you were going for lunch.
I have stuff to generate the afternoon.
No problem.
Busy. But next time we have a
screen though, right?
No.
Next time we have an in-office day, we should do a run to Costco. We can grab treats on bar.
The what isn't moving? I muted the room. I muted it on the tablet.
room just covers everything else.
Hi, members. So it's 11:21. And just don't forget to also turn your cameras on as well. Hi, members. Just a reminder to turn your cameras back on now that we start.
Start now? Paul, we're good? Good to go? Okay. Okay, we're going to proceed now with agenda item number 9, 230 Royal York Road. We have 18 variances. The purpose is to construct a new 9-story mixed-use building that will contain 60 residential units, 58 new purpose-built rental units, and 2 rental replacement units, and 1 commercial unit. We have a Metrolinx advisory, we have transportation services conditions, and community planning conditions. There are 9 of them. We also have a presentation and a support letter, and we have 6 parties registered to speak.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a change in that. Out of those 6, some people have dropped off. There's only 1 other person other than the agent left, and that is Cheryl Jackson.
Okay, so 1 registered speaker.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So the agent is Joe Hoffman.
Morning, sir.
Mr. Hoffman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
I can, loud and clear.
Okay, good. So I think given the complexity of this matter, a presentation would be in order from you. So if you can
Yes,
please proceed then.
thanks. And we did file a application, a small PDF that is the application material. So if it's helpful, I'd ask the committee if they could share the screen to include that document. My name's Joe Hoffman. I'm a partner at Goodman's LLP. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The address is 333 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario. At the outset, I want to thank planning staff and transportation staff in particular who have wrote detailed reports in support of the application. It's the product of a lot of hard work, cooperation, and collaboration. And the reason I think we got to where we got to today is because this application is a fantastic example of needed and desirable city building. This is a purpose-built rental building. It would add 60 units to the city's rental housing stock. All 7 dwelling rooms would be replaced in accordance with the city's policy. We've had meetings with tenants conducted with city staff to engage the tenants in the building. It's a sustainable building, mass timber, geothermal, designed to meet net zero and passive housing levels. There's also a commercial space proposed at grade that'll animate the street. It's modest intensification in an area intended for intensification. It's within a protected major transit station area near the Mimico GO station, a strategic growth area, and the lands are designated mixed use under the city's official plan. It's with this context that we are asking the committee to approve this application. And as the committee sees before it on the screen, this is a block context plan. It shows the site. It shows the lot pattern within the area, which I think is important. It's a corner site. It's on a minor arterial road, Royal York and Drummond. And you'll see just north of the train tracks is the Mimico GO station. So it's in fantastic location near to existing transit. And we're looking to leverage that infrastructure to bring housing to people on transit. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is a rendering of the proposal. Again, mass timber, high quality architectural, very thoughtfully considered, fits well within the context of the area. And again, you'll see that frontage, the lobby, bicycle parking, as well as a service commercial retail use at grade. And I'll speak to the variances in detail shortly, but you'll see at the top, The building steps back above the 7th floor, and that's intentional. And what we decided to do is push the massing back so that there's a good street perspective. As the chair noted, there are 18 variances, but many of them are technical in nature and all of them are minor. And what I'm going to do is group the discussion about these variances into 5 categories. So the first category is location of use and the number of dwelling rooms. The variances would allow residential uses on the ground floor, which is to allow the replacement dwelling rooms to be provided on the ground floor of the building at the request of city staff. It would also allow for 7 dwelling rooms to be located on site as opposed to 6. And really what's driving that factor is there are 7 dwelling rooms on site. We are replacing those dwelling rooms and they will be replaced at affordable rents. The other category is height and density. If we could go back to the presentation, the height of this building and the density of this building go hand in hand, and they've been thoughtfully considered. If we can just go to the last slide. Yeah. So this is the south elevation of the property. As you'll see, the building steps back above the 7th floor. It does again for the mechanical amenity space at the 9th. And the building has been pushed from the west property line as well. So we very much fall within the appropriate angular planes, but for minor encroachments within the angular planes that the mid-rise guidelines within the City of Toronto would dictate. And so in my respectful submission, it very much speaks to the appropriateness of the height of the building and the massing of the building and its contextual relationship with the neighborhood. You can't see it on this particular diagram because this is the south elevation, but on the north elevation, there are no windows. So it protects for privacy and overlook concerns with relationship to the properties to the north. Just quickly, because I realize I only have 40 more seconds, amenity space is another category. 4 square meters is required per unit. We're providing 3. It's very much a design of the building itself. There's only so much room for amenity space, but there are parks in the area. There are many units that have private terraces, and the amenity space that's being provided is highly programmable. And again, city staff have reviewed this application and planning staff support it. Parking and loading, there are a few variances for parking and loading. Transportation staff have gone through all of those variances in a lot of detail and have advised that all of the variances are acceptable without exception. And then lastly, there are some minor variances for permitted encroachments, and those just relate to some of the small terraces
Sir,
at the
Mr.
front of
Hoffman,
the building
you're
that you
over
saw in the
time.
rendering.
You're over time, Mr. Hoffman. Can you wrap up?
That's it, sir. In my respectful submission, the variances are minor in nature. They meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. They clearly meet the official 10 purposes and intent, the zoning bylaw. This is a desirable building for the area, and cumulatively and collectively, the variances are very much minor. The last thing I would say, sir, and thank you for letting me run slightly over, this is the type of application that I think the city should encourage. I think it's why we have planning support. It's rental, purpose-built housing, replacing existing dwelling rooms that are going to be affordable rent right near transit. And so with that, I respectfully request that the committee approve the application. I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Panel, any questions for Mr. Hoffman? Mr. Komarek.
Mr. Hoffman, you referred to affordable rent. Is it only the 7 units that are going to be defined as affordable rent, and the balance would be market rent? Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. So the 7 dwelling rooms that are going to be replaced are dwelling rooms that will be replaced in accordance with the city standard terms.
No, I understand that.
Will be the other building. The other building will be market.
So the development itself is not really an affordable rent development. You're basically replacing the units that you're obliged to replace legally.
Yes, but it's also a purpose-built rental building, which I think is an important city initiative, and why we
Understood.
have.
I just wanted to clarify that because you some of the variances, which I'll ask in subsequent questions, are quite large, and I think those kinds of variances are certainly justifiable if you're doing an affordable rent. But essentially, what you're doing here is market rent with replacing units which you are legally obliged to replace in any case. I'll leave it if someone else has any questions.
Okay, any other questions, panel?
Just to comment that not only is it near transit, but it's also near retail, which is important. It makes a complete community.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Ms.
general
Popova,
question.
yep.
Thank you, Mr. Agent. Can you clarify, I believe your comments were that the planning has approved this matter. My notes indicate that planning has indicated that the applicant has declined to make certain adjustments. Can you clarify that point, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've worked long and hard with planning staff. Planning staff have a report on record. That report suggests that conditions be imposed as part of the approval. Planning staff support the application. I think, through you, Mr. Chair, the reference may be with respect to the transportation report. The transportation report goes through all of the variances in detail, deems all acceptable, and then suggests that certain revisions be made through the site plan process. And our client has submitted a site plan application, and we are working with transportation staff to satisfy those concerns. But no, planning has no objection to this application.
Thank you.
Okay, if I can come back with one more.
Mark, yep.
Just specifically the height, the variance that's being sought is, I think 14 meters is permitted as of right, and you're requesting 31.79. Can you just comment on how you feel that that's minor?
Review, sir, when I think you're looking at these variances, you have to look at it from a quantitative perspective, but also a qualitative perspective. And a lot of thought has gone into the quality of this proposal. Again, I walked the committee through this very quickly with the 5 minutes I have had, but
That's why I'm trying to give you a little bit more time on it by asking.
Thank you. No, I very much appreciate it, because this is deserving. I think you're right to point this out, and it's deserving of a comment. The height is to the top of roof, but what this building proposes to do is push back a lot of the massing above the 7th floor. So from the street, you aren't going to see a 31.79 meter building. It's only going to be to the 7th floor that you see the massing, and then the remaining 2 floors are pushed back. When we're looking at height, we want to look at the context of that height within the surrounding neighborhood. And what I took the committee through was how we're addressing height with respect to angular planes. So you'll see the building has been designed to almost entirely fall within the rear angular plane of 45 degrees from the west property line. As well, when you take 80% of the height of the right-of-way and then apply an angular plane, a 45-degree angular plane at that point as well, there's only very minor encroachments. So when you're looking at this application from that perspective, I very do much believe that the height is appropriate. It's minor in nature, and it's a development that will fit within the character of the area. And as the committee has just put on the screen, that's a good example of the thought and design that have gone into the building and the height and how we've structured the massing within the site so there are no undue impacts to neighboring properties.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then let's invite Cheryl Jackson to speak to us. Ms. Jackson.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you just repeat your name and give us your address, please?
Yep, it's Cheryl Jackson, 8 Drummond Street, Unit 422.
Okay.
I think most of my questions have been addressed. I was wondering about whether this was considered to be affordable housing, which has already been discussed. I'm also curious, and I don't know if this is the appropriate forum to ask, but just curious about if this does go forward, what is the proposed timing for the construction? And that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Hoffman, could you answer Ms. Jackson?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, 1 second. Let me go back to Mr. Hoffman here. Okay, Mr. Hoffman is now unmuted again.
Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. We've already spoke about the affordable housing. I think that issue has been answered. With respect to timing, pending approval of this application, we would then complete the site plan approval process with the city and then look to have building permits issued by the city. So I don't know the exact timing, but the intention would be to construct this project as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Hoffman? Yep, Mr. Dalton.
I'm sure you are, but I'm just going to ask anyway because I've never seen so many conditions from planning. There are 9, and your client is okay with all of those?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we've reviewed the conditions in detail. We are fine with all of the conditions. We've worked with planning for some time to come up with those conditions, and so they do not come as a surprise. They're the product of a lot of collaboration, cooperation, and hard work, and so we are fine to have those implemented as part of any approval.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so let's go into committee for comments, discussion, or well, ultimately, a motion.
Well, I just got a curiosity question. What is mass timber? It's timber. Like, and why is that significant for this development?
It's environmentally friendly.
Okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
That was the answer. Thank you.
Any other points to ponder? So it looks like we're ready for a motion.
I'm happy to make a motion. I do think this is a very well thought out proposal. I appreciate that you've worked very hard with community planning to arrive at some perspective on this, and I'm also looking behind the site as well, and it looks like there's a townhouse development that's 3 stories behind the site. So you're not really impacting, and we've also got a no frills just down the street. So there's a bunch of reasons why this is a great proposal, I think, and I move for approval. I believe it does meet the 4 tests. I'm not sure how minor it is, but I think it does meet the 4 tests, and I move for approval subject to community planning's conditions, transportation's conditions, and do we have any?
That's all.
Urban forestry?
No.
No urban forestry. So that's it.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion?
I'll second that.
Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman, and good luck with the project.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, moving on to item 10, 45 Oxenden Crescent. Purpose is to construct a 2-story side addition. It's a revised application. There are 3 variances. It looks pretty straightforward. Panel, is anyone requiring a presentation? No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we do have an area resident
on
the register to speak, and they are present online.
All right then. So we don't know what issues they may have because they didn't correspond earlier. I'm just wondering, why don't we? We'll certainly hear from them, but I think as far as this, I don't think the simplicity of this application changes. Could I ask? Is it Felix? Is it Leitcher? Agent?
Leitcher, yep. I'm the agent, yes.
Okay. Sir, if this is pretty straightforward, would you be satisfied to proceed on the basis that we, the panel, ask you any questions we may have? You listen to the person that wishes to speak subsequent to that? Can we proceed that way?
Yes, certainly. Yes, please.
Okay. So starting off with the panel then, any questions for the agent? Okay, there are none. So we'll move on to hear from Dion, Marcellin Lewis, and Trevor Lewis. Is that the registered speaker?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the person who I have here is Dion Marcellin Lewis.
Okay.
Yes. So is it just basically I'm just just to see if there's any, I guess my main thing is that we are experiencing a bit of flooding, and I'm kind of hoping that is not going to make things a little worse. So I just wanted to be sure that's the case, because again, we are having a bit of flooding from 45 Oxenden. I just wanted to be sure that this addition is not going to make things worse.
Okay, we'll let, sorry, did you give your address for the record?
Oh, sorry, it's 47 Oxenden.
Okay, so you're 6 doors up or down the street?
Well, no, we're
They're
right
directly
beside.
adjacent.
Oh, 45, I got 35 written down here. Okay, you're immediately.
Yeah, it's 45.
Good, okay, gotcha. Okay, we'll let the agent respond to your query then, okay? Thank you very much. Felix?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay,
So
thank you for the
you heard from Dion. Could you respond to her questions?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the water which will all be collected on the roof and then brought down in downspouts and brought away far away from your home to the south. I think my client already spoke to you or to your husband about this. Everything will be mitigated during the construction process and will be considered as city requirements for drainage in our client's property, so there will be no impact on your property from that, the addition.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any other questions for the agent?
I sort of have a technical question. Planning has a condition of approval to tie to the site plan and elevations. There's been a revision changing the length of the building and the setback. So I'm just wondering whether that site plan reflects those revisions.
Yes, plans were revised and submitted.
So you have the revised, sorry, I see that now, okay. So
Yeah.
we're tying, so if we do that planning condition, we're tying to the revised drawings.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go into committee then for discussion if required, or a motion.
I'm good to go. Yeah, given the revisions and the fact that we do have the appropriate drawings to reflect those revisions, I feel the application is minor and meets the 4 tests. I'd like to move approval as revised, subject to planning tying it to the site plans and elevations, and subject to forestry condition 1.
Thank you, Mr. Komorek. Is there a seconder for Mr. Komorek's motion?
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Alderson, thank you very much. All in favor? That application is unanimously approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 11, 534 and 536 Rogers Road. Purpose of the application is to construct a 2-story rear addition. The altered apartment building will contain 7 units. We have community planning conditions and nothing else. I don't see that we have any registered speakers. Paul, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, just the agent.
Okay, Ida Evangelista, there's 4 variances. Ida Evangelista is the agent.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 534 and 536 Rogers.
Yeah, if you could maybe, it's pretty straightforward. There's only 4 variances, but if you could just make a brief presentation.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I have submitted drawings, or sorry, my apologies, a submission package with photographs of the current status of the building. This is an existing building. It is a rental apartment with 9 units. We are reconfiguring the interior of the building to include 7 units. I have met with Strategic Initiatives and they are okay with it because 2 of the units were extremely undersized. So now we're now in a better position because now we are adding 5 1-bedrooms, 2 2-bedrooms. So this building is existing. There is, and as you can see from my photos of the subject property, there is an addition at the back. However, it is to be reconstructed to be much more structurally sound. And it is to keep in line with the existing building and to provide laundry services and on the main and units above. We have, I have met with planning also, and we, you know, again, because this is an existing structure, we have done the best to our ability, and planning is okay with it. They have accepted our landscape plan, as you now see in front of you. We are including some planting materials at the front of the building so that we do not encroach the boulevard, and at the rear of the building to have also some amenity space with a barbecue area, and also have the 2 existing parking spaces. The variances that you have in front of you relate to the new area at the rear where we have the stairs, and as you see, I believe it's my page, just bear with me for 1 second. I've submitted an outline on my page 4 where I show the variances that it relates to, the stairs, and then we have a platform that takes you from the main floor up to the second at the rear so that you can access the 2nd story, and that's OBC related, and that's all the variances that we do have, all relate to that stair area on the side, and the existing wall that we are carrying on from on the west side, on the west side. And you'll see a clearer picture from my page 2. Just to, I made sure that I was able to give you all different angles. You know, it's a situation that we cannot change as it is existing. But I don't believe, and I respectfully submit that this will not encroach neighboring property. And I believe this will be quite an enhancement from what it is and what the owner is planning on doing with the building and the renovation. So with this, I respectfully submit that this is going to be a great feature for the neighborhood. It is on Rogers, which is a major street. It has access to TTC along Rogers, and with a good 10 to 15 minute walk, you're at the new Keelsdale LRT. So it is accessible, and these types of units are encouraged on main streets. Intensification is greatly encouraged on main streets.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm open to any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, panel, any questions for Ms. Evangelista? Good. Okay, then let's move into committee for discussion if desired, or a motion.
I'd like to move a motion for approval. I believe the application meets the 4 tests subject to the conditions in the planning memo.
So you attach the planning conditions? Okay. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Ms. Popovic? All in favor? That application is approved. Thank you, Ms. Evangelista.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 12, 69 12th Street. This is a revised application. There are 6 variances. We have urban forestry conditions 1 and 3, a Metrolinx advisory, 1 opposition letter, 4 support letters, and planning is okay. Does anyone on the panel require a presentation on this application? No?
I just want to make a comment that the objection letter is addressing the original variances before they were revised.
Okay, well, ask that now.
It's just a statement, sorry.
Okay. So we ready to move on this, or?
You can make a motion.
Do you guys want to?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just to
Sorry, wait a second, I'm jumping ahead here.
the applicant.
Lena Rodriguez.
Mm.
Lena Rodriguez. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here. The panel doesn't feel it needs a full presentation from you. We're wondering if you would be content with us asking you some questions. Sorry, I couldn't hear that?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Komorek, you have a question, I know?
No, it was just a comment, and sorry, I jumped the queue there. Should have had the applicant come up first, but I was just making a statement that the one letter of objection that we have on file was essentially focused on the variances before they were revised, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Rodriguez? Now we can consider a motion.
Okay. Having said that, I believe the application now does meet the 4 tests and would be happy to move a motion to approve subject to forestry conditions 1 and 3.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Komorek's motion? Ms. Alderson? All in favor? Approved unanimously with conditions. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Okay, moving on to item 13. Oh, yeah. 14. .441 Evans Avenue. Purpose is to legalize and to maintain the existing detached garage in the rear yard. There are 3 variances. We have an order to comply on file. We have no comments from any agencies. I don't believe there are any registered speakers. Paul?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. It's just the agent, Jeff Hansen. Sorry, yes, Jeff Hansen.
Okay. Yeah, again, I think this is straightforward. Panel, anybody require a presentation? Okay, Addison Milne Price. Sorry, Jeff Jansen, you're the agent?
Yes, sir.
Yes, the committee doesn't require a presentation from you. Would you be satisfied with leaving it that we ask any questions that we may have of you?
That's fine.
Okay, let's do that then. So panel, any questions for Mr. Jansen? There are none, so we can go into committee for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application as I believe it meets the 4 tests, and there are no conditions.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Ms. Popovic, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Jansen.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Item 15, 28 Sir Williams Lane. Purpose is to construct a 2-story front and west side addition that will include an attached garage and a new front porch. There are 10 variances. We have urban forestry condition 2 and a community planning condition. Does anyone on the panel require a presentation on this application? We're good? Okay. Antonella Wild, agent?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Hi. So
Hi.
the panel is satisfied it doesn't need to hear a presentation on this from you. It's a pretty straightforward application. Would you be content with proceeding on the basis of responding to any questions we may have?
Yes, of course.
Okay, let's do that then. Panel, any questions for Ms. Wild? Okay, then let's go into committee for a motion.
Okay. I'll move it again because this too I find straightforward. I believe it meets the 4 tests subject to the forestry and the planning conditions.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? That motion, or that application is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Ms. Wild?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, item 16 has been deferred. Moving on to item 17, 462, the Kingsway. Purpose is to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. A previous Committee of Adjustment application approved variances related to lot coverage, floor space index, front yard setback, side yard setback, roof eaves, location of ancillary structure, and driveway width. We now have one minor variance regarding a side yard setback. Yeah, and I think, yeah, okay. Straightforward or no presentation? Okay. Mr. Giordano?
Yes, hi, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, so the panel doesn't require a presentation from you. Would you be content with proceeding with answering any questions we may have of you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's do that then. I do notice that you sent in a last-minute presentation, but we've seen it. We don't need you to speak to it. Thank you. So let's go into committee then directly for a motion.
I'll move it again because I find this one to be straightforward as well, as it meets the 4 tests and there are no conditions.
Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Mr. Komorak, all in favor? Approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr.
Thank all of you as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interrupt, so if we're moving on to item number 18, there is an area resident. It's actually on the following page. Dennis Biffis at 16
Yes.
Snowberry Avenue. However, the applicant agent is MIA. Never showed up on WebEx. I sent him an email. Maybe we stand this one down to the end to see if
That's
they show up.
Joel Gerber.
Joel Gerber, correct.
Okay, then let's stand it down for now and return, potentially, hopefully return later. And we'll move on to item number 19. 110 Meadowbank Road. We have a revised application. Purpose is to construct a 2-story front addition to the existing dwelling and to convert the dwelling into a duplex. There are 3 variances. We have opposition from 5 people, but we don't have any registered speakers. Correct, Paul?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Just Rock Kim, the agent.
Yeah, okay. And we have Urban Forestry initially requesting refusal and then suggesting that they would be okay with their condition 1. Perhaps in light of the opposition, a brief presentation would be in order here. Rock Kim, as agent, can you speak to us very briefly on your proposal here?
My name is Rock Kim. I'm the behalf of the owner.
What's your address, please?
My address is 386 Young Street.
Do Do you have a unit number, like say 1402?
Oh, unit 2, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, could you, it's a pretty straightforward application, but we did receive very recently opposition from 5 people. I'm presuming that you read those letters, and maybe you could just focus on, you know, how you would respond in light of the opposition. Hello?
Okay, so yeah. So can I start now? Or
Yes, please.
oh, okay, yeah. So there was issue for the variance. Second and third one is we're trying to make the front addition and then second floor addition. So ground floor is existing as it is, make it same level, and the side yard setback is the existing house we are trying to straight up, make it same level, and so this is all existing house, same comment. And then the first one is front driveway. We're trying to make straight from the existing driveway, make it straight to easy. The owner can go access to the driveway, the more easier access. And then there is an issue for the city tree right now, but it looks like really we are trying to cut it because it looks like that. So we're gonna submit building quicker permit, and then if there is any issue, we cannot cut it. Then we will keep the existing driveway as it is.
Did you read the letter signed by 5 neighbors, concerns about traffic and parking congestion and whatnot? May 8th, 2024. Sir, are you familiar with the opposition to your application?
Sorry, I didn't check it yet. I'm sorry.
So you didn't get it, or you didn't read it, or what? It's on the screen right now.
Yeah, actually, we are trying to make the basement apartment as a 2-unit.
Yeah, we understand what you're proposing.
So yeah, actually the parking is only one parking is required as per the zoning. There is no variance for the parking issues for the duplex.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kim, panel?
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Your original application was essentially sent out as a 2-story front addition to an existing dwelling with a secondary suite. You've then changed it to include a duplex, and I believe that's what's triggered the opposition letters. How is your proposal any different than what it was originally, which is a single-family dwelling with a secondary suite, which is allowed as of right anyway? But would you have any other variances if this was a single story or I'm sorry, it's getting late in the morning, a single existing unit with a secondary suite? Would that trigger any variances? I'm just trying to understand why you want to call it a duplex now versus just a single dwelling with a secondary suite.
Single family dwelling and then a secondary suite or duplex is same 2 units. So I was trying to make it a duplex because there is a new zoning bylaw. It's allowed for the setback is more 1 foot more for that, but the existing this house zoning is exception of the the side yard setback. So I cannot change that part as a new zoning for the 1 foot more for the zoning. So that's why I was trying to make it get rid of the committee, but I cannot do that.
Okay, so there was no advantage to you variance-wise by calling it a duplex then?
Yeah, it was doesn't really changes. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Kim? You ready for a motion then?
I'll move a motion for approval, as I believe the application meets the 4 tests subject to the forestry condition.
That'd be condition 1. Yep. Is there a seconder for Mr. Dalton's motion? Mr. Kamoric, thank you. All in favor? Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 20. 40 Stephen Drive. Purpose is to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, a new front porch, and a rear yard deck. There are 2 variances. We received 3 letters of support. Seems to be pretty straightforward. Does anyone on the panel require a presentation? No. Ms. Rodriguez again. Similar to the previous one, we don't require a presentation. Would you be okay with just answering any questions if we have any? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Do we have a motion?
I'm good for a motion. I believe the application meets the 4 tests. Would like to move approval as revised. So we're down to 2 variances and reducing one of the 2, and no conditions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kamoric. Is there a seconder for Mr. Kamoric? Mr. Dalton, thank you. All in favor? That is unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Ms. Rodriguez. Okay, our final item in the morning agenda is, we got to go back. 18's ready?
No, Mr. Chair, we sent the applicant, the agent an email, we called them, left a voicemail, and nothing. We just have the one area resident that's online.
Sorry, that's with respect to what application? What?
That would be, right, number 1814 Snowberry Avenue.
So we still don't have an agent?
We still don't have an agent, no, but we could do item 21 first. Eddie Perez is here.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we can figure out what to do with
Okay,
item
let's
18.
let's dispense with 21 first. 39 Greendale Avenue. Purpose is to legalize and to maintain the existing 1-story rear addition. We have urban forestry condition 3. There was an order to comply. There are 4 variances. Does anyone on the panel require a presentation on this application? Mr. Perez?
Yeah, hello.
If it's okay
Good
with
afternoon,
you. Yeah, good afternoon. If it's okay with you, Mr. Perez, the panel doesn't require a presentation on this very straightforward application. Would you be content with proceeding to answer any questions that we may have of you?
Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you.
Is that good? Let's do that then. Panel, any questions for Mr. Perez?
My only issue with it, Mr. Chair, is the landscaping deficiency. And perhaps Mr. Perez can address why that's a hardship.
Pardon me, which one? I didn't understand.
Variance
what you're
4, your landscaping deficiency.
Yeah, that's an existing situation. Like my clients they bought the house in 2012. When they bought the house, the addition was there already. And then for some reason, the inspector showed up today because there was no permit with the previous owner. So they got an order to comply, which they had to pay double, as you know, and they weren't even the people that built the addition. It was the previous owner. I attached the existing, that's the existing from 2013 when they got the front veranda, and the addition was already there. So it was unfortunate. My clients had to go through this because when they bought the house, the addition was there, as you know. So I feel that the landscaping as is adequate.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
You're
President, can you give us an idea of what the rear yard landscaping percentage would have been or was before this rear addition was built?
Oh, I wouldn't know that because, like I said, when I went there, it was already there, and it's been there for 11 years, and more than 11 years.
Yeah, okay.
The addition was there prior to my clients buying it. They bought 2012.
Yeah.
So I couldn't answer that because I'm not sure.
Okay, any other questions for Mr.
I have a question. Looking at Street View, I see that it looks like it's not a parking pad. It looks like a patio in the front. And I'm not sure what the purpose of that patio is, because it doesn't look like there's any patio furniture on there, and I don't think you would want to sit out there anyway. But I'm just wondering if if that's a throughway to a doorway downstairs or a window. I can't tell.
There's a window.
There's a window in the front?
There's no door. Yeah, correct.
So could that patio actually be turned into soft landscaping? And that would increase the soft landscaping on the lot? Is that something that could be done?
No, because it's all brand new concrete, and that was done prior to the new bylaws. And we're not here for the front. We're only here for the rear.
No, I understand that. I'm just looking at ways to improve the soft landscaping situation, and it looks like it's just patio pavers. It's not even concrete. Anyway, that's all. Just a comment.
Because they have the. Can you put up the site plan again?
Part of that is actually on the city boulevard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it is.
The concrete.
Anyway.
If you look at the rear, we have quite a bit of landscaping as for what's back there. There's a metal garage there. Most of it's green. Like, I don't know, just because the way they take the average from the back rear wall is where the number comes in. But the whole backyard is almost all green. There's a garage there. You need a hard surface to get into it. So I feel that it meets the 4 tests and it's adequate.
Any other questions
you.
for Mr. Price? We ready for a motion? There's one condition, urban forestry 3.
That will take care of that, no problem. Thank you.
Good.
So, yeah, that's a cash in lieu. Yeah, I'll, I think it does meet the 4 test, and I'm prepared to move a motion to approve subject to forestry condition 3.
Okay. Seconder for Mr. Kamar's motion, Ms. Alderson, thank you. All in favor? That's approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Perez.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. So we will now adjourn for.
Can we go back
to
18?
18, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the agent is not here. We double checked in our system just to make sure that the public hearing notice had the correct time slot, and it did. But not just that, the neighbor knew that it was 9:30, so we just don't know what happened to the agent.
So members, if we could have a motion to defer the application. Planning is recommending refusal on that one, and we do have a neighbor here.
Due to the unavailability of the agent.
Yep. Do you want to hear from the neighbor so that we can tell them, or Dennis?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
I have unmuted the neighbor, Dennis Biff is at 16 Snowberry Avenue.
Mr. Biffus?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes.
hi.
Hello, thank you for,
Yeah, I don't know if you've been
yes,
following
my name is
along.
Dennis Biffus. I live at, sorry?
Yeah, I don't know if you've been following along. We've been attempting to connect with the agent on this application, Joel Gerber, for several hours, and he's still not available. We're contemplating a deferral because we don't feel comfortable deciding on this without hearing from the agent. Would you be
Understood.
content with a deferral if we decided that way?
Deferral is, sorry, can you explain?
Oh, we wouldn't hear the application today. We would reschedule it when hopefully the agent is available to speak to it. And notice would have to be reissued, and you'd get
Right,
notification.
Can I
of
just
it.
have my, can I just suggest my concern regarding the backyard of this, the subject that we're speaking on?
Well, no, we're not contemplating the merits of this matter right now because in fairness, we need to hear from the agent and we can't hear from the agent. We're just dealing right now with whether or not you agree with deferring this matter to a later date. At which
Yes,
time
I
you
have no
can,
choice.
at which time you could make your comments.
Yes,
You're okay with that?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so panel, could we consider a motion to defer based on the lack of availability of the agent?
Or a motion to refuse.
Well, then you want to hear from the
Agent, I know,
the agent,
but also I understand. Was just kidding.
But I would entertain that because
Because CP is asking
this
for,
application has come back. This is a repeat application.
and community planning is asking for refusal.
And I noticed that the variances
are same,
identical
Yeah.
to 3 short months ago. I would be supportive of a motion to refuse if anybody wanted
How
to.
does staff feel about that if I make a motion to refuse?
I just don't feel comfortable that they would challenge they didn't have an opportunity. We don't know the circumstances of why they're not here today. So
Yeah, I'd love
it
to
would
know.
just be best to
Defer.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, based on the unavailability of the agent, I make a motion to defer.
Okay, is there a seconder for Ms. Alderson's motion? Mr. Dalton? Oh, Ms. Popovic? Okay, all in favor? Okay, the item has been deferred due to the unavailability of the agent to speak to it. So we will now adjourn for staff. What is your wish? It is now 12:20.
I suggested 1:30 or 2.
I think 1:30 should be fine. We don't have.
Yeah, let's do that because we might be into a bit of a quagmire at the end of today, the closed files. Let's buy as much time as we can. So that gives us an hour and 10 minutes. That's enough for, right? Hors d'oeuvres, entree, and dessert.
Yeah, we've got 5 items.
Cocktails.